Well, hello there. My name's Jeremy, and boy do I have some big breaking news for you today. Warner Brothers just shook the movie world today by announcing that all of its 2021 movies, 17 of them in fact, are all going to be releasing on HBO Max at the same time as they release in theaters. Then they'll be up on HBO Max for 31 days prior to being available through some other means. That means movies like Dune, Suicide Squad, the fourth Matrix movie, and, well, a whole bunch more. And that's before their big test case even happens. That's the Wonder Woman 1984 coming out on Christmas where they're doing the same kind of thing. So before even waiting for that test case to be finished, boom, they have just announced the entirety of next year is going to go the same way. I mean, dang, that is huge. I've got to imagine that a ton of people are going to be getting subscriptions to HBO Max starting on Christmas and probably for, say, a little over a year. At least. Now, Warner Brothers did go ahead and try to say that, hey, this is just a 2021 pandemic thing, so it's not going to necessarily go longer than that. Not that I'd hold my breath on that if I were a bunch of movie theaters at the moment. Even HBO said that, hey, they wanted to guarantee as many movies as we could for the year for the global theatrical marketplace, regardless of possibilities of vaccines or anything else of that nature. And given the weird nature as to what's going on with different countries and how they're dealing with pandemics, cough, cough, America, cough, the US. Anyway, yeah, you can see why you might want to have the ability to release it on HBO Max and also in the theaters in all the places that might be handling the pandemic a little bit better. So this is, again, as said, huge. Warner Brothers is actually the second largest as far as the different movie studios for how much money they make out of the movie theaters and those theatrical releases. Last year, 2019, they made up about 14% of the US film market just by itself. Now, that said, number one is ours truly here, Disney, which made 33%, or actually add another few percent if you want to include all the Fox movies that came out, being that Disney actually owns all that now too. So while Warner Brothers doing that is huge, if Disney were to take the same step, that's way bigger because that's multiple times as far as what the theaters will feel an impact for this. Now, unsurprisingly, what happens with one studio is going to have effects on others. There are only a few major media studios at this point in time anyway, and then some other independent stuff, but otherwise we're talking, Disney, NBC Universal, which is owned by Comcast, Warner Brothers, which is part of Time Warner, Paramount, which is part of Viacom, and those are their major players right there. So Warner Brothers making this move will most certainly give cover for Disney and others to be able to make the same move too. And frankly, well, look at what Disney's done here this year in 2020 so far. Well, first off, Onward got cut short. Onward was the last movie in there as the pandemic was starting to really hit the markets and closing things down. And Disney certainly got hurt. Onward did not end up making nearly as much box office as they would have liked. It got released on to Disney Plus earlier than expected because of that, as well as other things it did. Then Artemis Fowl got moved straight over to Disney Plus. Hamilton was originally intended for a theatrical release probably next year, got moved over to Disney Plus. The New Mutants actually did go to theaters. Now, there may be a number of reasons for that. Maybe it was a bit of a test case, see how things were doing kind of thing. Maybe there was a contract going on. There's lots of speculation. That said, The New Mutants wasn't a huge movie that was expected to do really well, though. There was so much controversy and their critical reviews were bad. So, yeah, could be canary in the coal mine, and they purposely put it out that way too. Then we had both the movies, the one and only Ivan and Clouds, which there was a lot of talk that those were originally intended for theatrical releases probably next year or so. But those both came to Disney Plus as well. Then Mulan had its famous $30 model, where you had to pay $30 to be able to go ahead and see it for the first 3 months, and then come December-ish year, then it becomes free on Disney Plus anyway. As free as Disney Plus is, because you have to actually have a membership to Disney Plus, of course, but not an extra $30. But something to be noted about Mulan is it was only up where Disney Plus actually existed. And back when Mulan was coming out, one should note, say, places like China, it actually went to the theaters and there was a big theatrical release. And that's because Disney Plus, well, even still, is not actually in China. So even when we have one of those where it's going to Disney Plus, there are areas that are getting theatrical releases just because of the lack of Disney Plus. Heck, we had a big Latin American rollout just recently for Disney Plus, so it's in a lot more areas now than it used to be. But that should be noted when we're talking Disney Plus versus theatrical release, etc., etc. Now, there's one more big 2020 movie for Disney, and that is Soul. Now, Soul is going over to Disney Plus. It's going to be free up there on Christmas Day. So they did not go the Wonder Woman route of, hey, we're going to put it out in theaters and we're going to put it here. Although, again, even in this case, if you're in a place that doesn't have Disney Plus, well, Soul will actually be out there for you to see it in the theaters, potentially speaking. So simply taking a look at all of these Disney movies in 2020 shows Disney is more than willing to shake it up and push to streaming. And on top of all of that, Disney had a major reorganization that I reported on back a few weeks ago, where they reorganized their company to focus more heavily on streaming. And as they have said and others have said, all of this kind of stuff was going to happen eventually anyway, the focus on streaming, but the pandemic and especially how certain places have handled it have gone ahead and accelerated that immensely. And Disney Plus has been gaining subscribers hand over fist. Oh man, Disney Plus has been doing great in that sense. So will Disney go ahead and look this route? Probably a pretty good bet right here, especially with Warner Brothers having given them cover to do it. And there are a ton of big Disney 2021 movies coming. And some of those are starting early, like in the Fox area, The Kingsman is actually a February 12th movie. Now, whether Disney would put that up onto Disney Plus as well, that's its own other question. Maybe they'd go a Hulu simultaneous release. Don't know. We'll see what we see with that. But the first big one that's truly a more Disney movie, that's Raya and the Last Dragon. That's coming out March. Now, we might not hear anything from Disney soon because they might wait to see how the heck Wonder Woman 1984 does on Christmas and how Soul does on the flip side of it. And then make their decision after that because they got a bit of time. After all, it's not till March 12th. They can go ahead and make an announcement in January, say what the heck they're doing because they don't have any movies coming out in January right now anyway. So certainly that wait could be made. Or maybe they don't want to. Maybe they want to get everybody up there on Christmas and make sure they don't cancel their subscriptions before they make another big announcement. Who knows? We'll see. But there are so many big movies coming out. So as I said, there's Raya and the Last Dragon. Pixar's got Luca coming out next year. We've got 3 MCU Marvel movies, plus one from Sony as well. We've got West Side Story for December. We also have the Jungle Cruise movie. There's Cruella, the live action adaptation, as well as a few other ones that are from Fox. Again, there's a whole bunch of things set to come out next year. And does Disney really want to go keep playing the game of potentially pulling it back, especially while some markets are open and some aren't? Especially with their new focus on streaming, especially with Warner Brothers now going ahead and doing simultaneous releases, a thing that Disney very well could do themselves because they do have Disney Plus. Well, I'll make my bets. I'm going to bet you they are going to follow suit. Now here's the question. Will it just be free on Disney Plus and then available in theaters at the same time, no difference from Warner Brothers? Or will they try to do something similar to Mulan and they'll add an extra charge for some of those movies? Bloody hard to tell. We need to know the internal numbers and how that worked on Mulan, but we haven't seen them do it for anything else. Like for instance, we see Soul is not getting that treatment. That would lend me to imagine they're going to go more the direction of not adding an extra surcharge, but we shall see. In this case, the Warner Brothers move also makes it probably more likely that Disney won't add an extra charge because the precedent isn't there. Hard to say though. Now, one other thing to talk about while we're saying all of this here. What about 2022? Sure, 2021 will be this, and all the studios have their excuses of the pandemic to rely on, but will the pandemic really still be raging enough for that kind of excuse for the studios in 2022? Even imagining that it's completely gone, there's nothing to worry about at all, everybody's perfectly happy and content and feeling well, and the vaccines are completely distributed. Even if that's the case, I could definitely see the studios still doing something like this even if they pull it back a bit. Let's say they only give a shorter window for how long a movie's in the theater before they go put it up on streaming. That could certainly be. We had already seen some pushes starting to do a little bit of this lately, where they would go ahead and cut down that amount of time. And certainly the theaters would be only too happy to even have a little bit back after what happens in 2021. Probably be easier to negotiate that one right there. So that, I think, might be what to expect in 2022, 2023, is that we will see movies go back to the theaters initially, but for a much shorter wait time before they head off to streaming. And the studios might negotiate themselves a better cut of the profits in terms of what they get from the theater releases as well. Could definitely see that too. After all, they'll have them over a barrel in terms of being able to negotiate right there. And just one comment there. Theaters may be able to talk about potentially boycotting movies if they don't get a big enough percentage, etc., etc. That only works if there are enough other movies that they can go ahead and end up showing. So if Warner Brothers did this by themselves, yeah, the theaters would actually be able to have Warner Brothers over a barrel. Now, Disney by itself is a lot harder for theaters to respond against because, again, for the US, just as an example, they make up 40% of the box office. It's hard to go ahead and take a 40% hit by wanting to boycott those movies right there. And again, if the big studios are all doing this, then the theaters are backed into a corner. Good luck right there. Well, anyway, there is all of this intriguing news and what we're to expect potentially next year. And frankly, I'd be only too happy to get these releasing on Disney Plus at the same time next year. I'd be only too happy not to keep looking to, is it going to be delayed again? Are we going to really see Black Widow in May? I don't know how things are going there. But hey, if we get this, then yeah, Black Widow will be coming out May 7th. We won't have to worry about it. Brave and the Last Dragon will be coming out March 12th. We won't have to worry about it. Oh, that would be nice. So I'm definitely hoping Disney follows suit right there. And hoping they don't go out a $30 surcharge or something like that on top of it. Definitely hoping not. Well, anyway. What about you? What do you think of what Warner Brothers just announced? And how quickly do you think Disney's gonna follow suit? Or do you think they'll do something slightly different? Go ahead and let me know down below in the comments. And thanks so much for watching. If you liked the video, it would really help out if you give it a like, a share, and hey, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done it yet. I'll see you back here tomorrow for another new episode of Freeform Disney. Have a magical day, and may the force be with you always.